Peace, equality, and social justice. Those are the demands of our guest today. She chants them in the streets, speaks them to press, and even brings them to city council. And she isn't compromising on any of them. Not for herself, her daughter, or her neighbors. In this episode, we step in the shoes of Sally Abed. We'll get to know who she is, what she does, and how we can join the fight, organize, and mobilize to build a shared, just future. I'm your host, Amira.
And I'm your host, Ibrahim.
And this is UTTN, the podcast.
Hello, Sahla, everyone, for another episode of UTTN, the podcast. And before we get to our episode, we'd just like to say a special word of thanks to Beit of Hope for sponsoring this episode and for helping us throughout this season. Beit of Hope is a Swiss organization that's helping and supporting Palestinian and Israeli activists working on the ground. If you want to know more about Beit of Hope, you can see the episode that we've done with Mehra from Beit of Hope in our international episodes. So definitely worth checking this out. And now, without further ado, to our episode with Sally Abed. Sally, thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to get right into it. Okay. Our podcast is separated into three segments. We start by asking about you, who you are, and then we'll talk about your work and the needs that you have as an activist for your organization and from us as listeners, as a community.
Okay.
And now let's start with our first segment. Who are you? And now, Sally, we're going to ask you in our segment, we do it in a very special way, that we ask you 3 times to tell us who you are using one word. We're going to do it 3 times in a row. And at the end, we're going to digest each one of the 3 words that you used. You ready?
Okay.
So we'll start now and ask, who are you?
A mother. I think that's the most urgent for me these days.
And I'll ask again, who are you?
Palestinian.
And for a 3rd time, who are you?
Socialist.
Socialist.
Oh.
A mother, Palestinian, and a socialist.
You know, we need to start
instantly regretted it, but I think it's
we
true.
have time.
Yeah.
We're on a podcast, so you want to change the...
No, I don't. It's just that it is dynamic, how you would describe yourself.
So it's very important to us to clarify to you in general, to our audience, and we do it all the time, that, we know that we're asking our guests to give 3 words, and they're way more than just 3 words. But these are the 3 words that each one of our guests is choosing to share with us and with our audience specifically today, but it doesn't mean that they're just these words. They're much more beyond.
Needless.
Choose your boxes.
Exactly. We have so many layers. But today we're going to talk about these 3.
We need to start betting before the episodes, because we were talking and I was like, she's going to choose mother, Palestinian, and what was that? And I thought woman.
Okay.
And we have a discussion. It's like, I think she's going to say, I think he's going to say. So I think now I have 2 right. We need to start betting.
Out of 3, but I thought about woman, but then I thought mother already includes womanhood and
So we started with a mother,
yeah,
Palestinian, and socialist. Is there a specific reason for the order of the words?
I think so. I mean, I guess by association you asked me, and I do think I literally just dropped off Shams at kindergarten, so it's so urgent for me. I breathe motherhood these days, so it's the most it's the one thing that is all consuming experience for me.
Her name is Shams,
and her name is Shams.
Sun, which is a beautiful name.
Thank you. Obviously, Shams was born in the war, actually, literally, there was also the war with Lebanon, with Hezbollah. So I was literally having, giving birth, with rockets, literally flying above us. And Shams, for many people who don't know, we use it a lot. We actually use Shams a lot, Shams al-Mahabba, Shams al-Hurriya, the sun of love, the sun of freedom. It's used in so many beautiful songs. I sing to her all the time. Fairuziyat has a lot of Shams. Fairuz, a Lebanese singer, for whoever doesn't know, a Lebanese legend. So yeah, I love the name.
And you're also a Palestinian. And why was that the second word that you chose after being a mother?
Because I mean, we are more than ever, I do think it's constant, unfortunately, but more than ever, I feel like our how we identify and how we present ourselves and how we navigate our world of who we are is also a reaction to our reality.
100%.
And I think people are always telling me, like, why are you being provocative, especially when you're in politics, and when you're like, why are you are almost hurting your chances of, electorally and, being able to change things on the ground that don't have to do with Palestine, which is most things in Haifa. But I just feel like it's a reaction to the constant attempts of erasure and conditioning and, delegitimization of my identity. So it's like, it feels very urgent.
Can be a basic thing of just, this is who I am, but the fact that you need to emphasize
it is
because it's a response to the attempts of erasure.
It is also who I am, but
no, I'm saying like the importance of emphasizing it as a term, like,
right?
Just so you know, this is
but
what
how
I
do dream to be in a reality where it's not very urgent for me to be like Palestinian in your face all the time. I just want to like enjoy it.
Yeah, and in the first episode, that's what happened to that. When I was thinking about my 3 words, I didn't say Palestinian because I was like, in a world where my identity isn't suppressed, I wouldn't have to.
Right.
Like, I don't, like, I'm not a nationalistic person. I'm not a mother, so I chose womanhood and the word woman. So
what's the third one?
You gotta listen to the first episode.
I haven't. Good one. Now the listeners will also go back who haven't.
Really quick on this portion of the identity part, it's something that we're discussing a lot in this season. And it's something that came up a lot in our social media. It's been going crazy when we talk about the term Arab Israeli versus Palestinian citizens of Israel versus Palestinian Israeli, and all these, mishaps of different terms that
Identity
are
politics.
put to define who we are.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on all of this confliction of terminologies and all this clash of terminologies that we see, the lack of recognition, and how would you define?
So I have a story.
Community?
I have a story that would demonstrate my take. Literally, like 3 days ago, we had a meeting of the national leadership of the movement of Standing Together. We are approaching 10-year anniversary of the movement in November. November, I forgot the date, 27th, I think, is we're having like a big conference, in Haifa. And we are going to reiterate, our mission. Our mission is to build, a majority in Israeli society towards peace, equality, and social justice, right? That's like, in a nutshell, what our mission is. There's much more than that. But, and there was this discussion about, why are we saying Israeli society? Why are we not saying the society in Israel? And there was this discussion, like a real discussion. And then there was a meta discussion. Is this like progressive craziness to like talk about whether to talk about Israeli society or the society in Israel? And then, at some point I was like, oh, it is like what you say in Hebrew, like tirlur progressivi, like it's just like this progressive, like meta discussions that don't matter. But then we were like, went into the discussion. I was like, it does matter. Like when I talk, obviously, when people like introduce me as Palestinian Israeli, or like, I'm not gonna like, knock on the table and storm out,
Arab Israeli.
What?
If they say
I do
Arab
correct
Israeli,
them. No, I do correct them. That
then
is
it's
erasure.
Then it's more
that is
urgent
erasure.
To correct, because here it's elimination of the
I'll tell you
Palestinian
why.
term.
Arab Israeli is a term that has been engineered and used systematically to erase. To say Palestinian Israeli, I do know that many people around me, like Jewish partners and people abroad, who don't see those things as conflicting. They don't understand why Israeli is something that might be in conflict with my Palestinian identity. They don't understand why I would have a problem identifying as Israeli. Like, there's more room for me to understand the intention behind people, calling me Palestinian Israeli. And that's why I'm like, I don't correct as much. I might correct by saying it back like Palestinian citizen of Israel, very lightly, but I don't,
And why
we are
Palestinian
Israeli
citizen of Israel
citizens.
is the most applicable for you?
I think
Maybe
Israeli,
for you versus the general. What do you think in our
right.
community? What's happening?
I think Israeli is heavily loaded. Heavily loaded. I mean, it is loaded with Zionist identity, with Jewish identity. It is the Jewish national, term. Like Israel is the nation state of the Jews. Like, so Israeli is, inherently Zionist and Jewish. And I do think, I always say this, if we come in this utopian ideal world where like Israel becomes a state for all of its citizens, like just secular democratic state for all, that, works towards historic justice and towards reconciliation and healing and really, rectifying this place from the very, I might want to say like I'm Israeli in that sense when we read it from, these historic injustices and an inherent meaning of Jewish nation state.
And I also agree that, a Palestinian citizen of Israel is being a Palestinian and as a citizen, being Palestinian Israeli is more of a feeling rather than the reality. Like some people are more integrated, let's say, for lack of a better term, into this or more engaged, I would say, with the general Israeli society versus others who've never met a Jewish Israeli before. So like our community is on a huge spectrum of realities of people who've been fully inside, businesses where 90% of your coworkers are Jewish, or you've never had an interaction one-on-one on a personal level with a Jewish person in your life. Like there's so many differences.
There's
within
also
our
a lack
community.
of political education. In whether we want to talk about Palestinian citizens of Israel or Palestinians as a whole, there is no, I think it's manufactured. I think it's like by intention that even within the curriculum of education, I took the Palestinian education system. Like no one told me what a Palestinian was. And I think that is intentional. There was, and we talked about it with Hamza in season 1, that there was an attempt to put like what, like a little bit of like social, like what a Palestinian is, what our culture is. Of course, we learn like what Al-Khalil, Hebron is known for, what Yafa is known for, like the crops and stuff, but not the peoplehood. And I think that's really intentional. But there's also lack of space to talk about it.
Yes.
When it comes to safety, when it comes to also like the translation from languages. Like when you say, like sometimes you take it for granted when you say like Arabi, an Arab. And like to specify the word Palestinian, it's a bit like removed. That's why, and it's also not okay and very taboo to say you're Palestinian when you're talking to Hebrew like Stam in the streets, while you're saying like
they perceive it as a political term, like only, and very specific political like strategy or
like
vision.
I'm
that's
really
anti-you.
I'm really good at code switching. So I'm really good with or really good or really bad with accents. So sometimes when I speak in Hebrew, I like to mimic whoever like the people are. So sometimes like I would slip up in a few words and people would tell me, where are you actually from? And then I'm like,
Argentina. Aren't you mistaken for like Spanish speaking immigrants?
All the time.
Because we have the rolling R.
Yes.
But then you don't have like the Arabic accent. And then you're like, oh, are you like from? Yeah.
All the time. Yes.
You're
yes.
OG
and then like imagine saying,
Spartans.
oh, I'm Palestinian. Like they would literally like that.
In the beginning, I can't like in the beginning I was like innocently I would say that like I'm Palestinian. Until I like understood that, but like I would see the difference in reactions when I would say I'm Palestinian, or I would say I am Arab, or I would say I'm Palestinian Israeli. And both like Arab is like, oh, okay. But Palestinian people get triggered. Palestinian Israeli people like are dumbfounded. They're like, what? Even though I don't like adopt that term, but like even that one, people are like, what do you mean?
I was about to say, like all of this discussion we have about this is like, it's something that is so removed and not accessible to most Palestinians in Israel.
And we don't even have that space to do this kind of conversation.
Right. We don't have, like, it's not something that we like discuss, right? Or like talk about because there is no space for it, because we don't learn about it, but also because there's no safe political space or social space to talk about it, but also because, you know, it's not something that is relevant to our lives in a sense that, you know, unless you are confronted with it. It's the same, you know, when people talk, it's like, oh, are you Zionist or anti-Zionist? You know, like for Jews, I'm like, well, it's not, you know, people, the average Jewish person in Israel is not like discussing that.
And we're going to get back to identity also in your work, because God
we didn't
knows,
talk about socialist.
Exactly, because God knows identity is connected with your work in standing together with the municipality in Haifa. It's, you know, it's everywhere. We can't escape from it. So we'll talk about it more. And why did you choose the third word, socialist?
It's also a scary word when people hear it.
Yeah?
Our American audience will be...
I think I don't think so.
I mean,
think
in the US,
people
I knew the socialist was perceived a little...
I think socialism has been more normalized within the American audience, especially like younger ones in recent years, especially like with Bernie Sanders and like the whole progressive caucus and, you know, the progressive agenda that has come in. I do think socialism has been normalized. You know, the next mayor of New York City, the biggest city in New York, is going to be is an openly identified socialist, Muslim socialist. I do think it has created a new kind of discussion on socialism. For me, is about taking responsibility over the working class, over the marginalized, over the you know, everyone in our society, without any discrimination. You know, I see it as intertwined with my national struggle for freedom and for equality. I don't see it as, you know, instrumental, or I see it as necessary, as like an inherent part of justice and freedom and equality for all. I also see it as something that is bigger. It's bigger than us. You know, when people abroad, and I'm talking about this because you know, it's not just about our society here, and me fighting for education for everyone in Haifa, and for, you know, good transportation for everyone, and for clean air, you know, against polluting industries for everyone. I'm also talking about, you know, the bigger picture. We are fighting something that is much bigger than us. We are the epicenter of it. You know, Israel-Palestine does feel like the epicenter of all of it. But when young people in London and in Auckland, New Zealand, and in like, you know, Madrid are going out to the streets for Palestine, I think they're also fighting for themselves. You know, these crimes against humanity, they're against everyone's humanity. You know, what's happening, the occupation and the decades of subjugation and injustices is something that is it's a symptom, you know, of something so much deeper in the world order that needs to change. And I truly believe that socialism is the answer.
Can I ask when this part of your identity developed? If you have like a realization, did you like grow up in a socialist household or?
No.
Because like I don't even remember growing up thinking, like talking even about these things, or questioning capitalism, for example, or questioning these kind. Like it wasn't part of, maybe me personally, of how like I grew up, that it was okay to question the system. So when did it? Maybe briefly, because we need to conclude the segment. But when did it develop?
I do talk a lot, so please, like,
as do we.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I grew up in a very, very depoliticized house. I do want to say that within the Palestinian, you know, political scene, the Communist Party was always there, right? You know, you have Jabha, Hadash here in Israel, you know, the Communist Party. You have it also in the West Bank. It was, you know, it was something that is always apparent, class struggle and, you know, socialism, you know, communism, but we can, no time to talk about that, but it really is about, you know, advancing a socialist agenda, right, of social justice and equality and gender justice and all of these things. but that's not where I learned it. Honestly, I studied abroad in the U.S. In an American college at the Wake in 2011.
Which one?
Earlham College, Richmond, Indiana. Small liberal arts.
Yeah.
Very progressive. We were one of the very first to divest from polluting industries. We had very active political student body. It was in 2011. It was Occupy
Arab
Wall
Spring.
Street, the Arab Spring. So when I was there, first of all, it was, I met many Palestinians from all over, Black Americans, Latinos, LGBTQ, climate activists, everyone, really. We were so diverse. And it was at a point where there was this awakening of, socialism and social justice, of the Occupy Wall Street, the Arab Spring. There was the social justice, the social protests here in Israel as well, and all around the world. And I think that's the time where I was like, okay, like we are in this together. Like there is no point of me saying free Palestine if I don't go. And I have deep solidarity in the Black struggle and in the LGBTQ struggle and climate justice.
And we see a recurring theme here in our podcast. One is it's not the first Palestinian guest that talk about that we don't all come from very politicized houses. I think, that's already another guest that talks about it. No, we don't all sit all day long thinking about, raised about
we mostly don't.
We mostly don't.
We mostly refrain.
We don't learn enough, and we learn it on our own. And there's also that exposure of going somewhere else in the world, regardless of what that is, to get a different kind of perspective to a different reality, and that things can be different. And people take it and come back and try to be active is another thing that we've seen of people that have gone abroad and grasped these things and came back and wanted to create a change.
Right.
Which is beautiful to see.
Yeah, but we need to aspire to build those spaces, those politicizing spaces here. And I think that's one of the biggest missions I have, to let Palestinian youth, to give them that space within the movement.
We'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon community. Without you, UTTN wouldn't be where we are today, and we wouldn't be able to shed light on the important activism and co-resistance happening on the ground. So if you'd like to be part of the change, go to patreon.com/thirdnarrative, where you'll get exclusive content from Ibrahim and I and monthly Zoom sessions. In our next segment, we like to ask our guests who come from different walks of life that are connected in one way or another to the area from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And we like to ask them, what do you do? And generally all of them have multiple hats and have done many things, aspire to do many things, and currently in the present do 1,000 things. And I think you are no stranger to that. So can you tell us, what do you do, Sally?
I actually don't do it. I feel like I'm so laser focused on what I do.
Yeah, but what you do has its hands in a lot of things.
Right. So what do I do? Professionally, I still work at Standing Together. I am an employee. I work in the Research Development and Strategic Development Department of the movement. Mostly, relations with abroad, with our communities abroad, supporting communities.
I don't think many of our listeners don't know who Standing Together is, but...
What? No, I'm joking. Yes.
You talked about it a little bit in the first segment, but the 1 minute pitch, what is Standing Together?
Standing Together is the largest Jewish Palestinian grassroots movement in Israel. We organize and mobilize people throughout the country through local chapters, community centers, student chapters around issues of peace, equality, and social justice. In the last 2 years, really, since October 7th, we have really shifted our mission very exclusively almost on the mission of ending the genocide, the war, but also going towards not only a ceasefire and a hostage deal, but building a new kind of movement for peace that is just and equal for all. That's what Standing Together does. Is that okay?
Great.
I feel like you're looking at, okay. And I'm part of the national leadership of the movement. It's a democratic movement. So part of my work is public and not really professional, just working on national level, understanding, what is our mission, what is our strategy, leading it, around the country with our students and our local communities. And
you also have another hat.
I do have another
talk
hat.
already about standing together work, or do we want to?
I think we talked a little bit before the episode. Her work is very interconnected. So I thought we would lay the scene and then we'll talk about things.
Yeah.
And we can talk about, I'm also a council member. I'm an elected council member at Haifa Municipality.
The first female Palestinian.
I'm the first Palestinian woman to ever lead a joint slate.
Yes.
And we actually got elected. I was the only one who was elected.
It was one seat, but
it was one seat. Amazing success. We are very proud of it. And رفاعير أغلبية البلد, Haifa's Majority is the name of the movement, the municipal movement. It's also a democratic movement of the people, in Haifa. And the idea there is to build a co-governance movement. What does that mean? It means that I am not, free to advance any policies or any votes or anything without, the democratic voting and decisions of our movement members. We have an elected leadership there too, and I have an army of people helping me in everything that I do inside. If I go into a committee that requires 200 pages of reading, I am ready, because there were 7 people who are specialized in urban planning, city planning, who read it and tell me exactly where the problems are, what to raise, what to say. It is a collective project where I am the face, but I am definitely not the story. And I think, Haifa's Majority is kind of an extension of the political project of standing together, in a sense that we really felt that we founded it only, around 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And it was out of understanding that standing together is a political project that is talking about, the regional, national issues and national politics, building a new political current, new political imagination, political protagonist, a new story for the society in Israel, right? The Israeli society. And we felt like, while the chapter in Haifa is very active around these issues, it mobilized, it mobilizes people around, solidarity guards and solidarity shifts within Haifa to make sure there's no intercommunal violence, and to make sure, we have spaces for Jews and Palestinians to be together, especially after October 7th. It mobilized people around, against the war and for ceasefire and a hostage deal and peace. In the protests, that were in Khurev, very similar to the ones in Tel Aviv. There was one in Haifa. But we felt like that was lacking, daily life's politics. Really the real nitty-gritty of people's lives, to really get to the neighborhoods. Yeah. It was difficult to talk about peace and about justice and about equality and Jewish-Arab partnership and all of that. And then the next day move the agenda to public transportation,
Yeah.
It just felt that balance. We tried to balance that in the movement for years. And we do it, of course, even prior to October 7th and standing together, we had very successful campaigns around livable wage, around affordable housing, around, LGBTQ, about social justice, about a lot of things, about police violence. But it was on the national level, connecting it to larger issues. And it was very difficult to get into specific people's, lives on neighborhoods and neighborhood committees and stuff like
And
that.
zooming into like issues of Hadar neighborhood in Haifa,
Exactly.
the largest one with all the gentrification versus
and
drugs
Hadar,
versus
which has a very, very large portion of Palestinians,
Palestinian
of
cafe
Russian-speaking
scene versus the Russian cafes
immigrants,
versus the
right?
liberal
Haredi,
cafes.
ultra-Orthodox people.
It's
Hadar is
40,000
really a
people
very,
in
very
one
unique.
neighborhood. I mean,
Exactly, it's a very, very unique place. So how and we felt that we lacked that as citizens. We wanted to advance our own lives. I am a mother. Public education for Palestinians in Haifa is horrendous. It's really, it's really bad. and how do I fight that? I need to fight that through, municipal, local movements that are the extension. And I see it as the same political project of building a new kind of protagonist,
So before we start talking about the entire theory of change that you have personally, that the movements that you're a part of have in general, there was I don't know if to call it an incident, but even though you were elected with you were personally elected to Haifa Municipality, to be a member there and represent Haifa Majority, there was also something that happened that moved you from the coalition to the opposition, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Before we talk about standing together as a whole, can you tell us about that story real quick?
And I think that story in specific also can help us, in our audience, to grasp more of what Haifa really is. Especially now that you mentioned that, I think that's a really important point, what you just mentioned, as the public schools are not that great, like they're really bad. It's a thing, having that perception of, and I love Haifa, and I love the fact that we have the ability to have shared spaces, but it doesn't mean that the city as a city is that euphoric thing that people try to sell it. A city that has this euphoria.
It's the poster child, right?
ABC would have public education that's on high level.
And the Baha'i.
Show it to me on the ground. And I think your work in the municipality can really put into perspective what does that actually mean. So with that in mind, for our audience to think about it like
this. So I will tell the audience a little bit about Haifa while telling the story of my is it expulsion, I guess? They expel, I joined the coalition. What? I joined the coalition and they kicked me out. I am in the opposition now.
Because
I'm Palestinian. No, but that's not really. It is because I am Palestinian.
At the end of the day.
Because it is important to say that a similar movement was formed and founded in Tel Aviv, Yafa, and a Jewish partner of ours, also from Standing Together, was the one that got elected there, and he can say whatever he wants. He's not gonna be, he is in the opposition, but that's not the reason why he's in the position. He was from the very beginning in the opposition. He will never be, persecuted or humiliated.
What a Jewish Israeli can say is not what we can say.
So let's say that it is, eventually I do think that I was kicked out because I am deeply, who I am and what I represent is extremely problematic. And I do think, a Palestinian woman cannot be political. What are you, how dare you? It's problematic, but I want to say that it was because I had constantly talked about the genocide. I talked about the killings, the mass starvation. I talked about Palestinian children. I talked about the occupation and the settlements. I talked about all of these things way before the elections, during the elections, and after the elections before, they kicked me out. It's not like I surprised anyone with what I said. There was one certain post on Nakba Day where I basically, the scene. It's very familiar to everyone. You're sitting on the train and you have a gun pointed at you because there are so many soldiers with guns, and one of them is literally pointing at you, the guns, the rifle. And I was with my baby, and like it just drove me crazy. I was just so emotional that day. It was Nakba Day, and like I was just feeling, when you're just feeling like you're like everyone around you is like, and you like remember the polls and remember like, and you're like, who are you? Like, who are you? Just
how are we living here?
Yeah, and you feel suffocating, and I really felt suffocating. And I took a photo and I uploaded something about like, this is not normal, this is not normal. And then I wrote about the Nakba and the ethnic cleansing and the subjugation, never stopped, and it continues today and everything. And I think that was like kind of what, tipped
a big
triggered
trigger.
them.
Yeah, that's it. Like you touched our holy cow, the soldiers. Which I understand that. Like, we can talk about that, like even some people who voted for me reached out and were like, we understand what you said, but like you really touched a holy cow. Like my son is in the army. Like you're doing this, you're telling me that he's doing those war crimes. Like what, like, which, is true, but also wasn't my intention. It really wasn't my intention. And I want also to say that most of the problems that
I just want to say, because I think maybe the audience can hear the noise in the background, and maybe we'll leave it and not clean it up. But speaking of a not normal reality, we have warplanes on top of us, if you can hear them right now.
It's been tense in the last few days of recording this episode in the north, with the Hezbollah statements.
I'm so used to this. You don't get this all the, because I grew up on the Lebanese borders. So like, I'm so used to this.
Yeah,
like all the time.
The army spokesperson came out and talked about
this is I don't even hear them.
Military practice that they've been doing on the northern border. Hezbollah posted about their Radwan forces still in action. And everyone is setting the scene. It doesn't feel good.
Right. I'm just like, I don't even hear it. Like for me, it's like, this is childhood,
I mean, a lot of people, no comparison or making it equal, but a lot of children in Gaza can say the same with the Zanana, the airplanes that are always around there.
The drone.
The drones,
Back to our topic.
Back to our topic.
But
I want to say another thing, and that maybe like will describe a little bit of Haifa and what I'm trying to do. I think a lot of the problems, I was a problem maker from the very beginning, a troublemaker for them from the beginning, and not because of my political stances. Like, I really don't think that was the issue. It is important to say that, the mayor is, Yona Yahav is racist. I mean, they all are. But like, he's actually...
just don't like him specifically.
No, but he's like the
all.
spectrum. No, but on the spectrum today, he's actually more left-leaning in many ways. Like,
than his predecessor, what's her
like
name?
Historically, he was actually part of like helping, in the back. People don't know that, like in the background, in helping like Lichol Izracheha for all of its citizens, the Avram Borg and like the political party that talked about a state for all with Avram Borg and like the Labor Party. He is historically like Mapai and all of that. Obviously, it's like a Zionist white political current, but he is on the larger scheme of things more left-leaning in that sense, and people don't know that.
Surprises me because you saw the recent attempt that they've been doing to take down names of businesses that don't have Hebrew. Never touched a Russian place with only Russian, but places with only Arabic, they've been targeted. So that does raise a question. Is he really not racist?
She's saying in context.
No, I know, but still in context.
No, there is another context.
That's not good enough.
There is another context, is that he is currently surrounded by mainstream.
His majority.
I wouldn't even say like they're not even politically affiliated or anything with anyone, but by mainstream, people around him. And they are extremely right-wing, center, right-wing leaning center, which is extremely, racist and I would say fascist at this point within the Israeli, landscape. And that is an interesting context. And he does need money. He needs budget. He needs money from a government that is fascist. So he is succumbing to a lot of pressures nationally as well as locally to be more conservative. Let's say it in a nice way.
So you post this, you upload this post, and you write about the Nakba, your experience with
Right.
Shams. What happens then?
It explodes within our WhatsApp group. People, people actually threaten me. Council members in the coalition threaten me with physical violence.
Wow.
Wow.
I was shocked. I got a call at 11 p.m. from his right hand, who is Tzionut Datit, religious Zionist.
Religious Zionist
He's formerly a Smotrich supporter, but he is highly critical of him these days, so he doesn't believe in him anymore. So
Okay.
he's better. I'm just joking, if you can't detect the cynicism in my, for the audience. He also identifies as socialist. It's hilarious. And his deputy mayor, Sophie Nakash, who is very wealthy, the head of the financial committee. She basically runs the show financially. And they call me, and I'm like literally waiting for them to tell me like, oh, we're sorry, we're taking care of this. Like it's not legitimate for anyone to like, threaten you
with
physically.
violence.
And they literally just like bash me. Like, how dare you? How do you say these things? Like, what about our soldiers? And what about our hostages? And I'm like, yeah, like I'm fighting like to end the war so your hostages come back. And she's like, yeah, my daughter's in Gaza. And I'm like, yeah, historically, like mothers were the ones who led, anti-war movements, so their children don't have to go kill and be killed. Like, I invite you to do the same, Sophie. And for the first time ever, like I usually don't engage like in these kind of deep conversations, like very, very like unfiltered, like ethnic, like talking about ethnic cleansing, about like starvation, about the Nakba. It was Nakba Day, yeah, just remember. And like, I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And I understood that they are very right wing, and like I would never try to engage with them.
Yeah.
And I just honestly believe like they never ever had anyone, an Arab, like talk to them like that. Like ever. I don't think they ever were faced with such accusations and thoughts and ideas by an Arab, like ever. And it was insane for them.
That shows what's the problem.
Next
of the
day,
city.
boom, I was out.
That's the problem of the city.
And
is
this is
that
the city that's tokened as coexistence.
And I understood that I was out, but like it was important for us to like mobilize the public around it. The public was with us. And I think even the ones that didn't agree with my opinions, like completely, who didn't agree with how radical I am, quote unquote, I think people understood that it is dangerous not to, let me say what I have to say, and it is a red line. And we did mobilize a big base of his voters around this.
I guess this leads to a question which has to do with your strategy, with standing together strategy, which you said the goal is to build a majority. With this in mind, where what you just said, like before when standing together started during like the change government, there was this big successful campaign about raising minimum wage to minimum 40, and that was successful. It passed, and then the government fell, and then all of it, like here you're speaking the majority's language, you're touching like something that's very sensitive to everybody, our pockets. Everybody wants to bring food to the table for their children, like wants to afford education for their children and wants to live a dignified life. But then all of a sudden, when you're talking about soldiers, when you're talking about the Nakba, when you're talking about ethnic cleansing, how does that help? And is it not a compromise, but is it a value that you're willing to stick like firm with when it comes to building a majority? Because it's a big it's a big kind of like you're kind of like working with one less limb.
Let me help also, like start like with standing together also, because it's the same question. Like with standing together, for instance, which is the same kind of question on the city's majority, is how to get the people. Like, how do we bring the people to grasp things? Like, I'll be very blunt. With standing together, outside of the work, which is No other organization does the kind of work that Standing Together does on the ground. But as a perception, and we'll get about the Palestinian perception, there's the okay from the Palestinian citizens of Israel. There's the kind of like the kashrut, the stamp of
Kasher.
approval.
Kasher and halal.
Kasher and halal. But it's not, but we don't see a wave of people joining Standing Together from the Palestinian citizens, which we can talk about in a little bit. But also among the Jewish Israelis, it sits at the fringes. Like the bulk of the Israeli society, Jewish Israelis don't see Standing Together as a legitimate organization. How do we deal with that? Do you stick to the same rhetoric of we will tell the public the truth and the right thing, even though right now the public isn't listening? Or do we play the strategy of how do I bring you in? How do I bring the people of Haifa to vote for this kind of a rhetoric rather than telling them in their face, or to the Jewish Israelis with Standing Together? Like, is this working? Or are you thinking about changing strategy? And if not, why?
First of all, we always are thinking about not strategy. We don't change strategy. We change tactics.
Tactic, maybe.
Our strategy is very clear to us. Our theory of change is very clear to us. But we are extremely self-reflective and dynamic. Our tactics are extremely dynamic. We are constantly like with the hand on the pulse, of our societies that we want to change. And we're constantly trying to understand how to change them, how to appeal to them, how to be relevant to people. I disagree with you on certain things, but I will go back to that. I do want to talk about let's start with Haifa, and then I will move into, the bigger picture. In Haifa, part of the problems and the clashes that I had with the coalition was the fact that, let's say, a main rabbi in Haifa, an Orthodox rabbi, actually reached out to me, and he's like, listen, there are 500 Orthodox children who want to learn limudei liba, like
the
core studies. So not just limud, but also,
language,
not
math,
just religious, but like language, math, exactly, English, stuff like that. And there is funding for that, government funding. However, the municipality is not like signing on to give them, like, they need like special, additional resources from the municipality to make it happen. And of course, I'm gonna like fight for that, right? Like I was fighting for that, for the municipality. I actually reached out to people about it. The same with Yonayav, the mayor, actually, during the war with Iran, he had very, very racist expressions against Palestinians, but mainly against Haredi, ultra-Orthodox Jews in Hadar, who were not complicit, who were like not, and he like really had very, very racist expressions against them. And I really, I stood against that very, very clearly. When they were trying to renovate a historic building and give it put a huge, large hotel on the shore. I was there. I helped casino, the historic casino in Bad Galim, on the shore, on the beach in Haifa. I helped get, organize and mobilize these citizens in the neighborhood and in Haifa. And I got them.
Project,
I got them to the committee with me outside to protest while I went in and shouted their shout. And I was in the coalition back then. It's not something that is acceptable. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I am deeply committed to the people. I'm deeply committed to the voice of the people. And you cannot not see that, when you are building an authentic people's movement and people's politics. As a Palestinian, I think that is exactly what's radical about our idea. And that's exactly why people would want still to work with me. When Russian-speaking immigrants don't mind that I'm they don't care. They just
help me.
They just see someone who actually is listening to them, who is coming to their streets, who's advancing their things and wants to better their lives.
And it's the first time you run, and it's like something in building, and you're gaining
we are gaining
relationships and building.
We are gaining popularity. We are gaining popularity. We are gaining strength. We are gaining so many new volunteers and activists and stuff like that.
And
Now
what
let's
about
talk
in
about standing together. We
I see the more
grew
challenge there.
massively in standing together. We grew massively. Really. I mean, we have a membership, like a monthly due that you have to pay, and that didn't grow that much. I think it grew by like 2,500 people, which is still a lot for Israeli society. We're around like 7,000 something people. We started with 5,000 in October 7th.
And these are all locals?
Israeli citizens, okay. Yes. And many Palestinians. You're saying that, we got the stamp, but people are not joining us. And I heavily disagree with that. I think that the level and the form of participation, of political participation, of Palestinian youth especially, is very different than Jewish youth. The Jewish youth,
that was going to be my question.
Yeah, I mean, the surge in Jewish youth.
Of mobilization, of us being...
Yeah, if you go to our
society, because I don't see the kids from Nazareth or from Tamra or from Sakhnin or from Shfa'amir being as active. Like, there are some people, for instance, Shfa'amir, good example. There was an event for standing together, but you don't see the people coming. Right. You come to do a protest that I was with, standing together, that was in front of Kufr Manda. We're holding the photos of. I was telling Amira about this. It was a really traumatizing experience. Like, I'm holding the photo of a baby in Gaza, and people are just looking at me like on the screen. Drive and continue. Like, no one would stand for 5 minutes.
And we recognize that, by the way. We've recognized the difficulty to mobilize people. People, first of all, we have been paralyzed with persecution. Like, if you said like, oh, I am aching, like, literally, that's it. Like, for the people in Gaza, you would be like fired, you would be expelled from university, you would be persecuted, you would be arrested, investigated. I do think that it was so effective. I think at the beginning of October 7th, like, it was so effective, and we realized that, we recognized that we wouldn't be able, and even before that, it was just, we are a deeply depoliticized, conditioned, like, society not to be political.
Change that? I think that's where
I do think that we recognized that, and we were able to, I mean, during our popular campaign to raise food, tens of thousands of people, Palestinians,
that was the stamp of,
like, literally
approval. That was the halal stamp.
I don't even think that was the stamp of approval. I think
as the North, as someone from the North,
it was insane. I was going around.
Radar. No one knew standing together in the villages in the North.
Right.
They don't know them.
It was the most popular campaign that Standing Together has ever done by far. Can you say a couple
words about it also, and what do you think about it?
Like, what you're saying, I know you felt like when you went to that protest that you have a lot of frustration that there wasn't participation. One is that you're talking about the generation that was raised by the generation that was in under martial law, under Israeli martial law. So this is what they're conditioned to, and they use, even, for example, you, Sally Abed, who is backed by the biggest grassroots movement. They were also able to, like, affect your life. They were able to create a literal smear campaign against you, to move you from the coalition to the opposition. Like, I think this, like, and this is kind of like a light example, not to, like, put light in what you went through, but you, like, other people in 2020.
I am extremely privileged. I literally have. I am backed by a very resourceful movement, legally, and I literally have. You said that a Jewish partner can say so much more, but I can say so much more than the average Palestinian.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm with you.
So they need, but like to continue my thought, I think what Standing Together does so well is that you identify, like, for example, you don't go look at, which is something that peace organizations and organizations in general fail miserably at. They ask, oh, why are the Palestinians not joining? Why aren't the religious Israelis not joining? Why this? Why that? Instead of asking, what do they need? You can't just ask them to join without providing them anything. Ask them their support. Just to, like, continue to finish it.
Yes,
they saw that we felt as Palestinians that we were desperate, that we couldn't help Gazans. So they started that very successful campaign where people basically like overflood standing together with humanitarian aid for Gaza. And you also show up for one of the most important things for Palestinian citizens of Israel, which is internal crime. And standing together is there. Like, obviously, it's like a very complicated issue, and you're not the police, and like you play a specific role, but you show up. They see you. They see you, Sally, and they see your Jewish counterpart, their Israeli Jewish partner, and they see the purple. And I feel like we're like
No, I
before
mean,
shitting on it,
No, I'm
they're
not
only
shitting
10
on it.
years old.
No, I'm not shitting on it at all.
No,
I
I don't
just
think
wanted
about
to
it.
highlight the issue because the issue exists. I wanted to get from Sally how she perceives that issue, but more importantly, I know that this is the reality. The question is, what do we do about it?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
because I think that's the biggest
I
problem
didn't
of
see
the
it.
majority of the NGOs is like, there is no Palestinian okay, what do we the question should be not whether or not there is. Like, what I wanted to get out of it is what
Right.
does she see as because this, like, even with the trucks flooding the Arab towns throughout Israel, that was the wake of awareness to standing together. Now I'm thinking, what is their next step towards bringing people to be part of?
That's the difference between NGOs and organizations and between movements. I think the idea is that, like, movements, when you mobilize people, you're able to absorb some of that energy back into you, so it's sustainable and you are growing. And we are substantially stronger. And I agree, Amira, you said, when you pull for Palestinian society in Israel, what's the top thing that is most urgent for people to
Two
change?
things: crime and places to live, expansion of towns. The main two things.
Cost of living and housing, yeah. And the first one is crime.
Building house.
The
and
third
crime
one,
and house.
the third one is, the occupation and
Identity, Palestinian.
Yeah. And it's important to recognize that. It's important to recognize that. It's not that it's not important to us, that it's not urgent to us. It's just that it's not, what is impacting our lives most right now is the fact that you cannot get out on the street with your boy on a bicycle without like the fear of being shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very real thing that we are, and that's what you need to do. We don't have a magic solution. I do think that we are actively, strategically trying to deal with that because we understand the problem. And you need two things. You need to be relevant to people, and you need people to see themselves in the leadership that you are providing.
And I'll ask that then about the Jewish Israelis.
Right.
The Jewish Israelis see themselves in the leadership.
So now going into
the reality of today, it doesn't seem
I do think, standing together, and that's, by the way, I just want to say that we are encouraging young people and women, Palestinian women and Palestinian young, men to be part of the gallery, of the leadership. So people actually see them, oh, this is me, not just a 70-year-old man who says on radio interviews that women are just not interested in politics, and that happened. Yes,
I know who you're talking about.
From the Jabha, yeah,
It was a really bad statement of how he phrased that.
And today Mohammed Baraki, ahead, said yes, we agree. Here, someone let Jamaz Halqa,
like, why there are not enough women in the oh, you saw it.
Yeah, and then like he got out. It's like, yeah, we agree. This is really bad. So like here, one of our men, stepped down, and we're putting a woman.
We'll allow you.
Here's one woman. Shut up.
You.
But we really are, our political institutions are deeply outdated, and we need a new people. And the same at the end of the day, what do people want to be mobilized? They need to understand that you are fighting for them, fighting for their own interest, that you love them out of deep love for who you are as a society. You're not canceling them. You're not morally lecturing them. You're not like, oh, you're doomed. Oh, you're like immoral. Oh, you're like barbaric. Or and at the same time, you also want to be where they are. For the Israeli society, the Israeli Jewish society, I agree with you that we were much. I do think that we were more marginalized. We were much more in the margins. a couple of years ago. We were like the radical, we still are, people talk about us,
within the radical bloc.
Radical bloc. I do think, however, we were successful into entering the mainstream much more than than we have expected. I think it's a mini miracle what Standing Together was able to do. The fact that we were able to be on the same stage and organize and mobilize protests with the Hostage Family Forum, like constantly, while also like, bringing with us like the anti-occupation bloc, like, and be like, hey, we're in this together. And that's what we did in June. That's literally what we did, a protest of these, like we connected those two. And I think that's it. Like, that's a mini miracle to be able to say what we say and also have legitimacy to be partners with the Hostage Family Forum. I think that was one of the biggest successes that we had. The fact that we were able to like quite physically penetrate Israeli consciousness, like, with the Big Brother life, and like going into a Channel 14, and we were able to like penetrate Israeli consciousness. And if you go to, I think many Jewish celebrities who would have never been able to talk, we gave them space to like be vocal about the war crimes and in Gaza, like. And I think that's huge. I don't think that's marginalized. I don't think we are fringe anymore. We obviously still not like mainstream, but I definitely think that we were able to create a mini miracle of, being relevant to Palestinians, remaining relevant to the urgency of Palestinians, while also like not losing, actually expanding, maybe a little bit, but expanding a little bit within.
We have two more questions that we want to ask you within this segment. The first one actually came from our Patreon community, asking, I'm not sure where this came from, but I actually heard it from multiple people, is that Standing Together, or I'll ask you, does Standing Together discriminate or exclude non-citizens of Israel, specifically talking about Palestinians from East Jerusalem that don't have Israeli citizenship? And that the question was, where is that representation? Why isn't there like things from, for example, in the West Bank? But they were asking specifically about East Jerusalem.
Discriminate against? No,
that they're not part of.
Sure. Yes and no. I do think that the whole theory of change of Standing Together does stem from the fact that we are organizing the citizens of Israel around, understanding that, the way that we are organizing and building our institutions and the political will and the public pressure and the change that we want to see in we cannot do this with a person who doesn't have the full rights to do so, or at least, supposed to have the full rights to do so, with all of the complexity of that and the complication of that. And that's why we also understand that we are organizing mostly, citizens of Israel. When it comes to the West Bank, it's very clear to us that we cannot organize them under the same umbrella, the same idea. That's, I think, clear for everyone. What we do in the West Bank is really in partnership upon their invitation for us to come, for protective presence, for solidarity protests, for whatever, they want. We do trust that they will tell us their needs and we will come and be there for them. But we cannot organize them, under the same things. For East Jerusalem, it is a bit different. By the way, when we started organizing, starting to understand how to build the municipal movements, a group of Standing Together was also trying to do that in Jerusalem. And we really tried to go into East Jerusalem and do that. And it is complicated. It's extremely, that's like, an understatement, people in East Jerusalem, Palestinians there. Well, I don't need to tell you, you are from there. You're a Jerusalemite. There are many issues. One, there is deep justified suspicion and apprehension from Israeli-based organizations and movements, especially, and there is very, very deep skepticism of joint struggle, like, oh, geez, inherent. I do think, the tradition of that historically is extremely problematic. And the biggest issue is the deep, apprehension, a systemic, if we're talking about conditioning and persecution,
and depoliticization of Palestinians in Israel. So East Jerusalemites are going through so much more, such deeper level of subjugation and political persecution and daily occupation, that looks a little bit different than the West Bank, just because they have access, to Israeli society. So it is very, very different. Do we ideologically do not engage with East Jerusalemites? Absolutely not. We do understand that there is space to organize them, even if they're not citizens, most of them, within a space at least of the municipal and local issues that we do. But I must say that has been less our focus in the last 2 years. So it has been, unfortunately, the attempts have been less frequent to do that. I must say that we have a Purple House, a community center / office in Jerusalem. We have in Jerusalem and Haifa and Tel Aviv Yafa and in Nazareth. We're opening one now. And there are some people from East Jerusalem who come and participate in that. So no, we don't discriminate.
So I'd like to conclude this segment by, it is connected a little bit to the needs, because I know that you talk a lot to the international community. You work in the research development department within Standing Together, which means that you have you address the international community, including the Palestinian diaspora, which leads me to bring up BDS. I don't think it's the elephant in the room, but I do think it's worth talking about, specifically before we talk about when we ask you what do you need. BDS, I think up until now, we're recording this at the end of October, issued I think 1 or 2 statements against Standing Together.
PACB, actually, not. It was PACB, the Palestinian Campaign for Cultural and Academic Boycott.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I feel like, and I think I would just want to set the scene to whoever is listening to this. This is an internal, I want to maybe kind of close the doors. I want to talk as if we're 3 Palestinians that are talking. Disregard the audience that's listening. This isn't on a means, because I think we can all agree on the power of boycotting and how it is a legitimate means of nonviolent resistance, a very impactful one too, if organized and mobilized correctly.
And Standing Together constantly talks about sanctions and mobilizes their communities abroad around supporting communities around sanctions of the talking about sanctions of their own.
100%. I want to talk about how does it land? How does it feel when you got that statement? Were you anticipating it? Because I do feel like it's kind of it is whenever people there's a lot
supporting.
No, are you disappointed?
Disappointed.
From our experience, we have had.
Shocked?
Yes, Amira.
From our experience, we've had a few backlash from Palestinians, from a few of the heads of. I'm not sure what they're affiliated with, but I won't say that we don't say things or haven't said things that are controversial, or maybe things that would upset people or trigger people to boycott a conversation or this podcast. But for us, it's kind of a different story, because we share a name, which is part of the reason for the rebrand, with another third narrative somewhere in the States that has a different agenda that's also related to Israel.
Standing Together is also an organization for IDF soldiers.
Holy shit, for real?
Yup.
So it's not just us, and it's not a big deal.
So I'm not saying that that's a big deal, but
changed
then
the whole name.
We discovered that when one of our supporters abroad put the wrong link, and it was
that's how it happened to us.
Oh my god, it was horrific.
For donations, before we had now we have a landing page, soon enough hopefully we'll have a website, but this is all part of the reasons why we were then we need to take this seriously. We're how in marketing they say it's not about who came up with the idea first, it's who markets it better and has a better vision and a better whatever. We were going through the same thing. But to go back to the idea that prompts people to want to boycott. How did it how was it for you? as one of the faces, because it's not like you're just an employee.
Right.
So one of the faces.
Right, absolutely. And I was personally, attacked and confronted on American campuses by this, which, when you are enduring the impossible, both personally, just enduring all of this and being who we are and holding our mission and holding the Israeli society, representing the society in Israel as something that you hold and you want to hold and you want to be part of as a Palestinian, while being erased by that one and and being abroad and the collective immense grief over our people and the anger and everything. And then an American white student, 19-year-old with a kafiyeh, comes in and like she starts shouting at me that like we are normalizers, and it's just fucking. Can I say fucking?
Yeah, please do. Because it is fucking annoying. I'm sorry. It pisses me off.
It's not annoying. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. I literally, I face this all the time. In the last tour, I was actually pregnant, and it was in March of 2024. So like 5 months after October 7th. I was so tired, like so heartbroken from everything that's happening. And it was just so sad to have to I'm like, are you kidding me? Like it's already so complicated to hold my story of taking claim over the Israeli society. I want to fight for the Israeli society it's society that I'm part of as a socialist, as a person who believes in this theory of change, and to do that abroad while getting so much death threats and delegitimization back home, but still holding that love for the people and for, while also, holding our people and, and the erasure, both physical and, narrative wise. And for people to come and I have to fight another fight. Are you fucking kidding me? It was just exhausting. I would literally get off stage and just bawl. Just fuck you all. I can't do this. And it was heartbreaking. And that's on a very, very personal level. Even, the first statement, we had a response statement. The second one, I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to. Who are you, first of all? Who are the people? Give me the names. Who are who signs this? I want someone to sign this.
It's a real
I want
question.
to say, I wrote this.
I
made this research. Yeah. And listen, I accept criticism. I think we are the most self-critical. We criticize ourselves. We know when we mess up. We know we will mess up. We know we always do. And I want that conversation. I want you to criticize me. I want you to tell me when we say things that are not conducive to your work but to come and cancel us that way, it is hurtful personally, but also strategically as a Palestinian, as a collective, as a collective mission of us as Palestinians around the world and in Israel, Palestine.
It is about us.
You are literally making it harder for us, for all of us, to make this work and to actually stop people in Gaza from being killed. It is strategically bad. Stop. Please stop. It's not even about us.
Because when you
it's
are
about us
occupied,
as all of us, it's about us as Palestinians. Don't tell us what to do. Support us, but don't dictate our work.
Right. And listen,
coming high and mighty and telling us as Palestinians, this is the path that you should go, or that you are okay, or you're not okay.
I do think that many people that it resonated with them. They're also, Palestinians or not Palestinians, pro-Palestinian activists who are deeply mad, deeply scared, very angry, hurting. They are also going through their own persecution on campuses and their own, issues on campuses and silencing. And I get it. I really understand where they're coming from when it comes to that. I just want us to have a conversation, to be we are in this together. And what's honestly the one thing that's breaking my heart the most is the missed opportunity to actually do this together. Like, I want us to do this together.
Because we don't have the privilege to choose our allies.
Right.
Maybe abroad, Palestinians abroad, that can talk, that aren't threatened by ICE or deportation or whatever. We don't, like, if you look around, who are we going to work with to liberate ourselves? Who are we going to work with? Either, like, we have Palestinian citizens of Israel, Jerusalem. Like, how like, if you need that pull in order to, and who's there? Israelis, like,
And not to exceptionalize ourselves, but we have a historic role. Like, we are the only Palestinians who speak Hebrew. We're the only Palestinians who have Israeli citizenship,
so
who
much.
can be elected and mobilize Israel. Like, that's insane. That's huge. Like, for people to understand that, like, that's such an immense responsibility that I feel on daily basis.
Absolutely.
And it's not recognized, that kind of, role.
That's for me my problem with the strategy of BDS movement as a specific movement, or the boycotts, because boycotts in historically have worked great. The only problem with the new age of the what we see recently is that there's also that cancel culture, which is something relatively new. And for me, the biggest problem of what I see in boycotting is also not looking at, okay, if we're going to do this, what are we doing? Like, how do we help the other? For instance, the concept of talking about one university that I saw wanted to do boycott with relations with Haifa University. Instead of boycotting the entire university,
when 50% of the students in Haifa are
are
Palestinians who are persecuted, who are trying to fight for
why
their
don't
own
you
life.
give a special scholarship to Palestinian students? Like, why cut the whole university? You can do something else, and you.
But it needs to start with a very strong boycott. If you start,
But you
it's
see
like,
how the
wait,
dragging of the boycott has
Wait.
become. It's you start with one thing, and everyone is within the box.
But it's like
That's
how
the
I
problem
look.
of the
It's
new
like
world.
how I look at, like, for example, Palestinians that, like, are okay with the two-state solution, and they were like, "Yalla, two-state solution." I'm like, you're sitting at the negotiation table, already compromised on half of what you want. You go, and when you, like, I don't know, debate for a salary or whatever, you always go higher. And for students, they're going against the faculty. That I don't know if they have investments in whatever, but they need to go. They can't say, "Well, we want 50% of the students to be Palestinian." You start and say, "We're going to boycott you completely
Yeah, but you
because
know
of
that it
this."
never
And
happens.
these are the.
But you know
this
that
is
it
how it's
never
supposed
happens.
to
It
be.
becomes
No.
to complete boycott
Then
and
we're
cuts
talking about
completely.
Listen,
I haven't
is
seen
Haifa
it done
University
to...
is Haifa University promoting very racist, discriminatory policies against its Palestinian?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Is it investing in things that are, by the way, not just, also like polluting deadly industries and, the occupation and technology for the military and everything? Absolutely. Should it be boycotted in that sense? Absolutely. Yes. You need to understand what is like when you are a movement that is facing literally an ongoing genocide. Okay, you need to understand the urgency of your mission and what needs to happen. And I think they need to be much more responsible. Like, I'm not even talking about
That's
standing
what I
together
feel.
right
It's not a
now, yeah?
game of
Like,
let's put everything in the
standing
same
together.
box.
Why are they not? There's so many like openly Zionist movements like in Israel. Why are they not boycotting them? Yeah, like it is really a like I think they are not being strategic in a sense. There's no responsible leadership that is literally thinking, what is the one thing that we need to do right now in order, because boycott, divestment, and sanction is an extremely important, extremely legitimate, a way for us to resist.
And it
as
has a lot of
Palestinians.
power to be done
Right.
correctly. And if you don't have
Exactly. And I
responsibility,
think,
it will damage.
why are they not boycotting all the different movements, in Israel that are Zionists, that go and do work outside? The only reason is because we actually have an impact abroad and they're reacting to it. When your strategy is reactive, it's not a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
When it's people who presses your buttons because you're uncomfortable with it, like, that's not a reason to be uncomfortable with my reality and where I'm research it, come talk to me, come and then tell me I'm with you or against you. But that attitude of putting
honestly,
things in boxes.
And I'm not an expert. Honestly, I don't know. Like, maybe I haven't thought about it in that way because it's not my mission. Like, in a way, like I haven't thought oh, who would I boycott like in Israel to make it most conducive. And maybe Haifa University is like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just saying it should be done better. And more importantly, they should have the ability and the willingness to engage with us. Like, that's crucial.
And if you want to hear more of Sally and also another Standing Together activist, Jess, with more and more long answers, they have a podcast called The Long Answer.
Okay. And it lives up to its name.
Yeah. And we didn't call ourselves The Long Answer, but we definitely have a lot of long answers in this podcast. Yeah. We'll link your podcast in the description.
Awesome.
But I think now it's time to go to the final segment.
And to our last segment of the day, after a long answer to every one of our questions before, is we talk about the needs and asking you, how can we help? What are the things that us, either me, Amira, the audience listening, the international community, the Jewish Israelis, what do you need from partners? As Sally, as Standing Together, as
Haifa
Haifa Majority, what do you need? You can start with us, the Israelis, the Palestinians, the world.
Right.
Or you can start what you really need.
What we need?
Yeah.
I think we already got the major understandings of how to move forward, like how to build our messaging and our campaigns and our work and our public narrative and everything. Like we have the tools for that, right? To like build that as a reaction and like change it and transform it all the time. What we don't have, and I think no one has it, is, the exact, future, like how is this going to look like, right? And how is this going to, and how does the movement, sending the Palestinian liberation, even within Israel, the context of Israel, like ending the occupation and like peace and, whatever trajectory that will have, it's so much bigger than Standing Together, and Haifa's Majority. And it needs partners who are open to being agnostic about how this place looks like, who are open to be critical and criticize us without, and really criticize us. Like, I really think, Amira, we had that conversation, like, when I told you, like, every person who comes into the movement, like, we don't expect people to, like, shape into our movement, but, like, we try for the movement to change according to new people who come in. And for that, I think, like, partners and the ecosystem around us just needs to be open to change us and to change. And for us to all, we are just literally working towards, like, almost like an unknown of how this looks like. How do our borders look like? How do our institutions look like? How do our leaders look like? Like, how does our life look like? Will we have, like, I don't know, a train to, like, Beirut again, like, soon? I don't know, and
so we need political imagination.
Yes, and how will the Palestinian society be able to, be actually, like, prosperous and equal and just for women and for LGBTQ, like, also be self-critical as Palestinians on, like, the challenges that we have ahead. And I just want people to be open and critical of us while insisting on engaging with us. And I guess, I mean, we all need money, right? I think everyone needs money, but, like, that feels so, like,
feels like a given.
No, the reason I'm saying this is because I think people underestimate how heavily the right wing is funded and what we are going against. And, like, just we need so much, like, we need a historic flood of, like, of money around these issues, especially, like, the people who are trying to build an alternative and not just the traditional landscape, which is also getting a fair amount. So it's not just about money, it's about resources, about the focus, the highlight, like the spotlight. Yeah. What do people ask for usually?
What do you need from us? Like
From you
me and
too?
Amira
Well, you already gave
as
me an
partners.
hour and how much? You gave me a long time and a platform and a conversation.
Or from our
Um,
communities as
and
East Jerusalem, the North. What do you need? What do you need from our communities?
I
Wait,
need I need of you to be less cynical about
me?
you yeah, you. Yeah, I think
I'm
when you
surprised. I'm
started
generally the
describe
optimist in this show. But tell me
no,
why.
no, I think not cynical. You were skeptic. You were
Oh,
skeptic
about
about
what?
our ability to mobilize and oh yes, you mobilize people, but you're not really able to mobilize. And
I'm an optimist, but I'm
I'm just
definitely critical of.
You asked what she need,
No, I know.
accept it.
No, I know. I'm asking.
Receive it.
No, I know. I'm saying
no.
I agree with you that
Yeah.
I am an optimist, but I am a skeptic of these things because I'm like, how does it actually happen?
So let's first of all keep asking and keep asking me and keep asking yourself and like which we should keep asking each other all the time what needs to happen. And I think we need to be more forgiving of ourselves, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't think your skepticism comes from like critique of the other, but like also like you're not like how are you like how what should we do? Why are we not doing enough to mobilize our our
It's more our frustration from
our
society.
base
Like, why
and our
can't we?
community.
Like that.
We
Yeah.
should be forgiving of our people. We're deeply damaged, and there's
And
a lot
I
to do.
appreciate that.
one line from what you need from Palestinians in diaspora.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know what I need from them. I mean, I do know. I just, I think I need from Palestinians from the diaspora. I need them to engage with us and understand that we need to evolve together. And this is, when we talk about collective liberation, it's not just about, Jewish partnership, Jewish diaspora, and it's about all of us and everyone that lives on this land. There are 7 million people who are Jewish on this land who identify as Israeli. And for our people to actually have a chance in living freely and in dignity on this land, we need to accept that and engage with that and understand how we move forward.
Thank you so much, Sally. It was really an incredible conversation. And thank you to everyone, to our audience, for listening to us. And, continue to follow us on all platforms, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Everything that we talked about, Sally's podcast, Standing Together, the city's majority, and all the work that she does will be in the description. So continue to follow us for another episode of UTTN, the podcast.